Wonderful welcome to you on this class segment of the Fusion Mobile e-learning platform. I am Sharif Olaita and I am your civic education tutor. I'm going to be taking you through types of employment. Of course, we are going to be talking about the types of employment, which includes self-employment, underemployment, full employment, and unemployment itself. Right before we delve into the topic proper, let me remind us what employment means. Employment is a state in which somebody has a work to do by self-reliance or by public service, and from which he earns a living and helps contribute to the economic development of the state. Now, types of employment. This is where someone does something on his own for a living without working under some other persons. That is, a cobbler who has a shop and builds shoes himself. He doesn't have to earn salary at the end of the month from anybody. He makes his own profit from the shoes he sells. Or a tailor who has a shop and sews clothes. Those are people who are self-employed. Of course, full employment. This is a situation where one is fully engaged and well paid for maximizing his efforts at work. And then, thirdly, we have underemployment, a situation where one's potentials are not fully utilized. There are financial, mental, and physical underemployment. Okay, let's take for instance, where you have medical doctors being employed into, let's say for instance, a chemist, those roadside drugstores. Imagine a medical doctor being employed there, and all he has to do is just hear from you what kind of drug you want to buy and then sell to you. And at the end of the month, he's still being underpaid. He's not remunerated or paid according to his level of education. Of course, underemployment, we have financial underemployment, which is when one is underpaid for the job he performs. Say for instance, I studied education in school and I am employed as a teacher, and I know by virtue of my results and certificates, I'm supposed to be earning nothing less than 120,000 naira per month. But I am employed and I'm being offered 7,000 naira in a month. How do you want to compare the two? How do you want to bridge the gap between 120,000 naira and 7,000 naira? That is what we call financial underemployment. Mental underemployment, when one is made to perform a task other than his area of training or specialization. Imagine somebody who studied ABG, animal breeding and genetics in school, being employed as a teacher to come and teach in a primary school. Imagine somebody who studied surgery in school, being employed as a driver to come and drive in a company. Somebody who has PhD, being employed to a factory to come and work in a factory. That is what we call mental underemployment. Physical underemployment is when one is grossly underutilized. He does a job below his maximum capacity. Then we are going to talk about classes of employment, which includes self-employment and employment in establishments or working for others. Self-employment, this is an economic act of self-reliance and economic independence. It is a situation where one works for himself without being supervised, controlled by another person. Self-employment is made possible through hard work, self-confidence, commitment, diligence, vocational education, and professional proficiency. Areas of self-employment include farming, trade, crafts and arts, small-scale industries, and economic services. There are certain benefits of self-employment, which are: it creates jobs opportunity for self-reliant individuals and employment for other members of the society. It helps reduce the rate of crime in the society, self-employed persons and their employees pay tax, which is a form of revenue generation for the government. It contributes to industrialization, national productivity, economic and social development of a nation. It leads to a self-development and enhancement as people are able to practice their profession, make investments, and improve on their standard of living. The sources of funding for self-employment includes the following: personal savings from personal income and profits, financial support from family members and trusted friends. If you have a wealthy family, you can be sponsored, or investments can be made on you to start a particular job. Thrift and Loans Cooperative Society, which operates on low interest rate for members. If you belong to a thrift or cooperative society, you can obtain loan which you can use to start up. Government grants. In some climes, governments provide grants which are accessible to innovative youths who want to remain self-employed and want to practice under the small and medium enterprise scale. Sales of own property like land, equipment, and houses. If you have a particular property which you consider that it would be more ideal for you to sell it and start up, use the money for a business startup, of course, this is another source with which you can fund self-employment. Bank loans too are ways through which you can raise money to start your own employment. The consequences of being self-employed. Where it is not registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission as a corporate and legal entity, it may not attract government financial sympathy or support. Of course, the grants we said the government may produce for youths who are willing to work and start up their own organization or companies may not be accessible if someone is not registered under Corporate Affairs Commission. The owner is personally liable to all the losses and risks of the establishment. Inadequate capital stagnates most private business as they cannot face the challenges of bigger corporations. The working hours are not structured. Self-employed persons work at irregular hours. They do not have a closing hour. They do not have an opening hour, which is well structured within the bureaucracy. Oftentimes, the business collapses as soon as the owner dies. If the owner dies, there may not be anybody to carry on with the business, leading to the death and the collapse of the business itself. Employment establishments or working for others. This is the second class of employment. There are employment establishments, otherwise called work institutions, which employ semi-skilled and skilled workers and employees. These employees work in places other than their own. They are employed, often retrained, and paid according to their work and skill value. Work institutions that employ workers could be owners of self-managed businesses called private enterprises. Private enterprises may be owned by an individual or group of individuals. The enterprise could be either incorporated as a legal entity or operate as an unregistered business outfit. Registered businesses have advantages over unregistered ones. The basic difference being that they are regarded as legal entities or persons and enjoy operational recognition from the government. The other type of work institution is a public service or establishments. These include boards and parastatals, government agencies and commissions, government-owned institutions and ministries. They employed workers who have requisite credentials, standard education and trust, professional skills and competence. What are the certain things that makes a worker employable? For you to be able to seek employment and be able to gain and become gainfully employed in an institution, there are certain skills and criteria that you must possess as a prospective or potential employee. Because owners of establishments do not just employ anybody or invest anyhow on the development of their employee. There are 7 basic skills that make a worker employable. One is positive image and confidence. The second one is positive work attitudes and pride in one's work. You have to have a positive work attitude and be proud in your work. Practice of good work habits, display of ethical behavior, show of effective communication skills, accepting and facing responsibility, and finally, cooperation with others within the organization. Now, I'm going to talk about unemployment. Unemployment is a condition where a trained, willing, and capable job seeker has no paid work to do to earn a living. There are certain types of unemployment. We have structural unemployment, where there is a shift in demand. When a particular product loses patronage, workers in that area will start losing their employment. Let's take, for instance, there's an establishment within Umuahia along Aba Road, which is called Golden Guinea. This company, for a long time, has folded up. And by virtue of this, their workers have been laid off, meaning, at the moment, they are structurally unemployed. Technical unemployment. Changes in techniques, methods, and tools used in production affect those with skills. Especially in this age of rapid technological development, workers tend to lose their works when companies and organizations bring in machineries that can work in their place and save the cost of production. Seasonal unemployment. Those whose skills are employed in a particular season remain unemployed after a season. Some farmers experience seasonal unemployment. For instance, for those who plant maize, there's a particular time they plant maize in a year. There is a particular time for the harvest of yam, and so on and so forth. For the time when there is no harvest for yam, such farmer will remain seasonally unemployed. Residual unemployment, which is unemployment caused by physical or mental disabilities on people who ordinarily may be willing to work. Of course, people who are willing to work but have lost an arm or a leg may not be able to find a job that will be paying. This is called residual unemployment. And we have voluntary unemployment, which is the last class or type of unemployment. It is a situation where one on his own decides to remain idle or unemployed for reasons best known to him. Most of the thugs and hooligans used by politicians fall under this category. Causes of unemployment. Inadequate educational program, where schools training remains deficient in practical, mental, and affective skills to enable the child earn a living after leaving school. Then the educational system should be blamed. Low level of educational attainment, school dropouts may not be able to find employment in a suitable organization. Use of capital-intensive methods of production. Of course, the modern industrial establishments require huge investments on machines than humans and thus encourage unemployment. Inadequate number of industries, undeveloped agricultural system, youths who still shy away from studying science and entrepreneurial studies, lack of social amenities, lack of information about availability of job opportunities, overpopulation. In a case where a particular state or country is overpopulated, there may be a result of unemployment. Bad government and poor economy, lack of required technical skills, disasters and emergencies, which could lead to the displacement of certain people from their environment or, consequently, death. These are the consequences of unemployment. Unemployment by economic principles leads to economic downturn and underdevelopment of a nation. Since only few work, leaving the rest unemployed and virtually dependent. Psychologically, those who cannot earn a living are usually unhappy, antagonistic, and vulnerable to crisis. People are predisposed to committing crimes. It leads to low productivity and low standard of living. Training brains and people without putting them to work or employing them amounts to huge national waste of manpower. The unemployed people depend on the few employed relations, which cause overdependence. Now, let's talk about underemployment. Between employment and unemployment is underemployment. Underemployment, as said earlier, is a condition in which a highly resourceful person is grossly underutilized or employed and also underpaid. Some of the reasons people are underemployed or underutilized include lack of adequate training to fit into the demands of given tasks or job specifications, poor management of human resources, limited or absence of right facilities to do the job for which workers are employed. The consequences of underemployment include wrongly placement. Workers are wrongly placed and underutilized. There is inefficiency as a result of no proper job orientation, low standard of living resulting from the meager wages the workers get, criminal tendencies, lack of pride in one's work, and as a result of the above, the person may become uneducated, less committed, and ready to move over to outside country at any slightest opportunity. Now that we are done discussing the types of employment, which gave us self-employment, underemployment, full employment, and so on. A question is going to come on the screen now. Provide adequate answers to them, and if you have difficulties answering those questions, kindly rewind your video and take another watch. Thank you for watching.